Hello. So I was hosting a just a half an hour Q&A call for a group. And I don't normally record people when they ask me questions. So I thought I would do a little kind of aid to your cues, answers to your questions. And when I say your questions, I'm also talking about questions I get asked when I speak, questions I get asked about on private calls, questions I get asked about when people want to pick my brain. So if you're a person that likes to pick a brain, I have picked my brains, and you'll find lots of stuff, historical stuff too, over on my YouTube channel, which is really easy to find because I lucked out. If you go onto YouTube and type in at Jenny Kovacs, that's Kovacs, you will find my channel straight away. And while you're there, please do subscribe. I've got a new batch of stuff coming out. I'm going to get my hair done 'cause it looks a bit messy. But I've got a new batch of videos that are coming out there. So today I thought I would talk not necessarily so much about um, what visibility is or what to do or to get into the structure and the strategy and the do this and do that. So you walk off with your head spinning and feeling overwhelmed. I thought I would talk about why visibility is important. I thought I would talk about what to do in terms of in answers to these specific questions. And I thought I would talk about how it benefits because some of the stuff I share is so simple and so easy to do. But when you're not a visibility specialist like me, I have spoken to thousands and thousands of people over the last 15 years, and I'm now in my 16th year. I've worked with hundreds of companies, I've worked with hundreds of individuals, I've worked with hundreds of small businesses, and I've also worked with thousands of career professionals. Now, some of them I've worked on a one-to-one basis because they feel like, oh, well, how can I move through this? How can I have career progression? And a lot of them I've worked with through their companies, through their corporates, and also through various institutions and associations. So people like the Institute of Travel and Tourism, and people like the International Compliance Association, um, people like I'm trying to think what all the acronyms stand for and reel them off to you. The Institute of Marine Engineers and Science, IMAREST, IMAREST, Marine Engineers. So I've worked with people from financial services to service-based businesses to marketing companies that specialize in marketing, companies that specialize in events, the Metropolitan Police, solo business owners, and they have earned anything from, you know, two figures a month to all the way through to multiple nine figures. Yes, multiple nine figures. That blows my mind because I don't earn multiple nine figures. And the reason that I share that with you is that because so many different people, regardless of where they are in their business, whether they've just got started, been going for a long time, or have pivoted and changed, whether that was due to the pandemic or something else. And what I find most commonly, the thread between all of these businesses has been over the years is that they tend to do more than one thing. So even if, like me, I might say, yes, I'm a visibility specialist. Yes, I'm known as the queen of being seen, but I help people get their confidence on camera. I help people to um, put themselves at an advantage when it comes to being visible. I help people with presentations that sell. I help people to speak out authentically and publicly speak. So I do lots of things under the umbrella of visibility. And I tell you something, when you come to me and say, I do this, I do this, I do that, but I don't know how to talk about them all, I can smell that golden thread a mile off. When you come to me and say, well, I work for this company and I do this in my business, in their business, sorry, and you're an employee, and you tell me, yeah, I've been in this industry for, I don't know, 6 years. And before that, I worked in this completely different industry, or I retrained before that and did, I've done two or three things. I know exactly how to help you position that for the best in your current role so that you don't have to leave that company, go to another company to get the promotions or the pay rise, so that you can stay where you are and do what you want to do if you want to. I've also had people that have been professional employees that have decided that they wanted to go into a completely different industry. And rather than having to start at the bottom and work their way up, which is what a lot of people tell me, we identify the skill sets that you bring, the experiences that you've got, the insights that you've gleaned, so that when you go into that new industry, you don't necessarily have to start all the way at the bottom and work your way up again. So I have a absolute plethora of different tools and techniques and things that you can use to make being visible super easy, super accessible. So some of you have heard me speak, some of you have listened to YouTube videos and different things like that. And you would have heard me speak about something called the ABC. And I will share my screen so that you can see it as well. But you would have heard me speak about something called the ABC. So let me tell you very quickly why I created the ABC. So the visibility vibe system indicated by Afrodol there and the vibes, and Afrodol is the eye. I actually started doing this in 2010. And I did it for 8 years before I plucked out a very clear model on, well, it's quite obvious, isn't it? Why to be visible. And people are going around the internet and having a look at information on visibility. But I'd never clearly defined, apart from when I was speaking, but I'd never clearly defined in a model why to be visible, how to do it, and why it benefits you. Why it's so important, not just for you, but for them. So I created a model, and I didn't even realize it was going to be a juicy ABC. But I talked about the need for people to be credible, because I knew that if people are credible, then they're believed. And if you're believed and you feel that back from either your audience, if you're speaking, the boardroom in a meeting, or the people around you in the Zoom or Teams room, if you feel that you are being believed and feel that you are being taken seriously, this ups your credibility, ups your confidence to do it again and do it even more and add more impact, and more value to the people you're speaking to. I also knew that depending on who you were speaking to would mean that you might have to sort of temper what you were saying. So it's interesting. I've just caught the tail end of a keynote a few hours ago, and on that keynote, people on the stage with their like brightly coloured suits with a t-shirt and trainers on. Whereas if you were to go into the city, specifically the City of London, to a high-end law firm or a high-end insurance company, you would be expected as a gentleman to wear a suit and tie still. And then there's layers onto that. The shirt would be a patterned shirt, the tie would be heavily patterned. And yes, the average Joe might say, well, that clashes, doesn't it? But actually, it's almost like the unspoken uniform of the place that you're in. I can come to you with my iconic hoodie on because I'm, at time of recording this, doing this in the evening. So there are lots of different reasons why or how people, or lots of different ways, sorry, that people's audiences show up in different ways. And it depends on the type of business you've got. So as I was writing down on my paper, because I tend to kind of dump it on paper, I know it's not very tree friendly, I dump it on paper and then either I type it out myself or get it typed up by somebody else and put into a model. I realized, well, if I'm talking about credibility and talking about businesses and talking about audiences, I'd written my titles really big at the top of the page. It was CBA. And I was like, well, that's 3 points or 3 ways, or 3 reasons to know why to be visible, how to be visible, what to do, and how it will benefit you and the people you're speaking to. And then as I was kind of drawing some stuff out, which I sometimes do, I was like, oh, CAB, CAB. Oh, that sounds a bit funny. And I was like, of course, it's ABC. And actually, the people that I would want to address first is the audience. So it works perfectly. So the ABC model was born, and that is kind of like the precursor to the vibes model. It helps us to focus like where our audience or who our audience are specifically, and don't buy into the myth that you only have one, Jenny, female in the 45 to 55 age bracket, lives north of the M25, married with 6 kids and all of that. That stuff is useful, I guess, but it's a really slow way when we go through demographics and not the psychographics of the person. People would come to me and say, look, Jenny, I do want to do a video, but I just don't really know what to say. And they didn't mean they didn't know what to say as in they needed a script, but they didn't know what to talk about, even though they know their own business or the company that they worked for. They would come to me and say, I've got to give a presentation. I'm not sure what to include. I feel like I've put too much in, and would ultimately, let alone being up at like 3 o'clock the morning before, would spend time even before they're kind of rushing to present. I've worked with senior leaders who have been sat in their car finishing off the presentation 10 minutes before they're due to give it, or they've been sat in the meeting kind of like pretending they're taking notes and typing in and making that presentation, like tightening it up. And you don't often have many people that you can soundboard or brainstorm with. So I started doing this with my clients one on a one-to-one basis. And even when I ran workshops and things like that, people would be asking me the same things. And I pay attention to those questions. So your ABC is your audience, A, your business, B, and credibility. And so I was going to put it up on the screen properly, but I'm going to hold it up. This is what I made today. So I've broken that down as a crib sheet. I'm actually going to get them printed into A3, so bigger sizes, so that people can have them when they go through the work, to remind them of some of the places to be. So at one such talk, and this was for International Women's Day, and it was within a company. And I asked people to let me know what stopped them from being visible, or what at least slowed them down or put them on pause and made it, kind of a slower process. And this one really caught my attention. This person said, I'm scared of it all, crumbling right before um, having friends here. I could look silly. I can let nerves get the best of me, and it will reduce me to a high voice when speaking, and then lots of apologies, and unable to stand up and say no or what I really feel. And this is something that I hear in lots of guises a lot. And I just think the person who wrote this was really honest about where they were in it. So they said they were scared of it all, which, from what they've shared and what they wrote down, indicated that it really just stopped them. It didn't even pause them or slow them down, it just stopped them. There's a number of things they say in here, and although they might all be connected, they're very different. So I'm going to answer these points. In fact, probably only time to answer these points through the A, B, C, so that it brings it to life and you can see what we're talking about. And I will attempt, as I'm answering it, to bring it up on the screen, so at least it will start to make sense. So one of the things they start off with, I'm scared of it all. Now, in the ABC, I talk about the mindset of that. I'm going to see if I can find it on here as I speak to you. Do, do, do. And of course, it's not on there. Okay, let me not do this because it'll be really distracting watching me pulling funny faces and trying to get something up. Hold on a second. Here it is. Oh, no, it's just opened up. Anyway, So I'm scared of it all. I often talk about visibility being an inside job. And what I mean by that is exactly this. Now, you might not be nervous or frightened or scared. You might be really confident, but it's still an inside job because sometimes if we feel like we're being overly confident, we can tap into our ego, and it's our ego that runs everything, not you or not the information that comes through you. Have you ever felt like you're just in the zone? And you're on fire and you don't know where the words came from, you're just getting it out there in the world. If we are fearful and scared, it kind of blocks that flow, which is a shame really, because as the person says, it alters their voice, it makes them worried about how they look in front of their friends that they worked with there, and it just kind of stops everything. So in crumbling right down and having friends here, I would say out of the ABC, there's actually two pieces to look at. There's the audience piece, and then there's the business piece. Now, the business piece, in a nutshell, is well, how do we do things around here? This particular organization that I've been to a few times are the least judgmental organization there is. They bring in outside speakers, they bring in a lot of personal and professional development for their people. They really take care of them. They run special things on, International Women's Day and Men's Day, I believe. And they go out in their industry and they celebrate the people internally as well. And one thing I noticed about this organisation is they do promote a lot from within, so people have that opportunity to grow. So, from a business perspective, sometimes when people tell me this, it's actually a concern because the business itself isn't a safe environment to express. So I never brush off any comments like that. I always want to know. Sometimes the business is a safe place to express, but you might be in the wrong, in the wrong job, in the wrong environment. So it might be a kind of a sign to move on or to get out. Not very often that happens, but that's a part of the business piece. The reason why I want to speak to the audience is this person who's scared of crumbling right down. Imagine this. They have got some really important information to share, some really interesting information to share. And the reason why this falls under the audience is if you put yourself in the shoes of the audience, it's like what you're delivering, what do they need to hear? Who are they? Whereabouts are they? Does it need to be a company-wide thing or is it just for the board? Does it need to be a senior leadership team thing or is it for the new starters? Is it for the graduates or is it for a mixture of people? Knowing who your audience are takes the heat of this. Your graduates will be wanting to absorb information like a dry sponge in a bucket of water. Your, strategic leaders will be the board, the execs. They will want to know, what do we do with this information? How can we make it hit our strategic goals? Your senior leadership team might need to distribute what you've just said to other people in their team. What I'm saying is, they will all have different needs, and some of them might all have the same needs. It might be like an announcement or something like that. When you put yourself in the position to think about what do these people need, it helps you to organize your thoughts, it helps you to calm your nerves, and it helps you to pull out the information that you need to give. Especially in some companies where the numbers are so big and it's repetitive, repetitive, repetitive. And I've done this myself in financial services. I remember having to deliver the risk training and I wasn't that thrilled with it because nobody wanted to be in the risk training. Half the people loved compliance and risk, and the other half just didn't. So it's a bit like when you invited salespeople, like very good and top performing salespeople into training, they would spend half of their time trying to get out of the room, be on their phone, close deals, because that's what lit them up. When you think about the people in your audience, whether that's in a boardroom and you're an employee, whether that's in a small room or a small group that you're speaking to, when you think about what they need and start to put yourself in their shoes, it actually is virtually impossible to then start doing your nerves, because now you're thinking about what they need, what you will deliver to them, and you can't be inspirational, motivational to them and bricking yourself and pooping your pants to you at the same time. If you want to, you could jump between the two. And one of the things I've noticed, especially with nerves, people think it's just because of that particular event, but often they've been building it up for a long time beforehand too. So I remember many years ago, I had to do or had to deliver some training amongst my peers, which I was going to be assessed on. And it was only afterwards, I mean, on the day, I was a wreck. I still did it, but I didn't feel good. I actually felt physically sick. And it was only afterwards when they graded me and I passed, thankfully. And I admitted, for some reason, I was so nervous, like more nervous than I should have been. And there was a technique that somebody in the room actually used on me to help, because I think if they hadn't have done that before the talk, I think I would have really messed it up. It also meant that I could eat some lunch as well because I've been feeling so rotten. But when I looked afterwards and looked at where the nerve started, the nerves had already started, I think 3 or 4 months before, when we were given ample time about this presentation and what we needed to do and what we needed to build, which I had done 1,000 times before in a training capacity, at board level and at times where it really mattered within pitches for the company that at the time I worked for. But on this particular occasion, I started to second guess myself and doubt myself. And from that moment, I started building the case for I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to, do a really bad job of it. And built that over those months into a crescendo until the day of delivery. So pay attention to what your audience need from you and how this information, this presentation, this talk, this training, this conversation, this input in a meeting will help them. I've been Jenny Kovacs, the Queen of Being Seen. I hope this has been helpful to you, and I hope with my casual look that you've been able to absorb this information a little bit more easily. I'll be doing some more videos. I'll definitely be sharing them with you. Thank you so much for watching this, and I will distribute it now to all the places online where you might have wanted to pick my brain, and now you don't need to. That's it. Bye for now.